So welcome everyone. Just find a comfortable position, allowing your body to relax. And see, if you want, you can also close your eyes and take a deep breath in. And slowly exhale. Take another deep breath in and exhale again. And let your breath settle into a natural rhythm. And with each exhale, see if you can release any tension, stress, or any distraction that may be lingering from the day. And as you breathe, gently bring your awareness to this moment. Notice the sensation in your body, the steady rise and fall of your chest, the grounding of your feet on the floor, if you have the feet on the floor, otherwise just feel your ground, and softness of the air on your skin. Now gently shift your focus inwards and simply observe what's present for you right now, whether it's a thought or emotion or physical sensation. Let them come through and go without judgment, just noticing them as they are. As we explore self-worth and effects of trauma, take a moment to connect with yourself. Acknowledge that you are here today because you care about your well-being and your healing journey. Just with every breath, invite in sense of kindness towards yourself. Imagine each exhale, inhale, filling in with warmth and understanding. And with every exhale, releasing any doubts, any fears, or any heavy emotion that you may be carrying. And allow this compassion to grow, filling your body and mind. Remind yourself that you are worthy of this time, this space, and the healing you're about to experience. And just take one deep breath in. And as you exhale, feel yourself open, ready for the insights and the healing this session will bring. Whenever you're ready, just gently open your eyes and we begin our time together. Our session today, so for if you are coming in new, generally we basically divide our 1 hour into about 15-20 minutes of, we'll get into the topic of the day, we'll introduce the concept of self-worth and how trauma affects, understand the inner conflict, and then we'll get into what is the path to reclaim self-worth from a therapeutic point of view. And then we will prepare for an IFS, internal family session. If you have not been in IFS, don't worry. It's simple, just follow the cue and come along. And then we will get into that session itself, where we'll work with two conflicting parts of you. And then we will get into, once we have finished that, then we'll get into sound healing. I will increase my volume. And we'll get into sound healing, and we will see if we can, here we go, a little bit done, sorry for that. We'll get into sound healing, and then afterward, at the end of the session, we'll then get into Q&A, and I will talk about Q&A towards the end. Okay, so let's go. Let me know if the voice is not okay. I'll do some other adjustment. Okay, so let's get into the topic of self-worth. So self-worth is a core belief that we are inherently valuable and deserving of respect, care, and love, simply because we exist. So it's a core belief. is not based on accomplishments, looks, or external validation. This belief forms the foundation for how we treat ourselves and allow others to treat us. So when we have a strong sense of self-worth, we are able to navigate life challenges with the grounded understanding that we are deserving of the kindness, compassion. For example, someone with healthy self-worth knows that making a mistake at work or in a relationship doesn't diminish their value as a person. Now, traumatic experiences, particularly those that occur in childhood or early life, can of course severely disrupt the development of self-worth. Trauma, whether it's emotional abuse, neglect, any form of abuse, neglect or repeated failures, they teaches the mind that there is something fundamentally wrong with us. For instance, I've been working with this woman, young woman, and I've changed her name. She shared how her mother's physical and emotional abuse from a very young age, at the age of 3, made her question her values. She learned to associate love with conditional approval, which disrupted her ability to believe that she is worthy of respect or care. And those experiences then distort our perception of ourselves and create a deep inner conflict about our values and place in the world. Now, trauma often leaves an emotional scar that can be in the form of shame, guilt, or self-doubt, which then starts to manifest in various areas of our life. Okay. Common effects include feeling unworthy in relationships, fearing rejection, or constantly seeking validation from others. Okay, so back to Anna's example. She found herself hyper-focused on a relationship, and she was always fearing abandonment, and she was trying to be perfect so that she avoids rejection. And in a professional setting, this can actually manifest into an imposter syndrome, where individuals feel that they don't deserve their success, and their emotional patterns not only hinder personal growth but also prevents them from embracing their true value. So self-worth is actually our innate ability having a belief into our own value. But trauma can disrupt this and distort how we perceive ourselves. An effect of trauma, which is shame, guilt, self-doubt, can lead to struggles in relationships, in careers, as we saw as you will see in Anna's story, that it by recognizing how trauma impacted her, she started a journey back of healing and reclaiming her understanding of how she lost her self-worth and what is her true value. And it goes quite fast when you start to work on that. Now, what we found is that there is basically an inner conflict. And when we talk about inner conflict, we are really talking about the tension between the parts of us that wants to feel worthy and whole, and the parts of us that holds onto the pain, fear or shame coming from trauma. In my work with trauma survivors, I've often seen that this internal struggle manifests into many ways. On one hand, we have a deep desire to heal and embrace our true worth. And on the other hand, trauma convinces us that we are not good enough, not deserving, or that we will be hurt again if we open ourselves. And take the example of Anna. She dealt with ongoing abuse from her mother, who never validated her feelings. And this created a split within Anna. One part of her wanting to stand up for herself and to feel valued, while another part still felt very small and unworthy because of her mother's constant rejection. And this is the essence of the inner conflict, the battle between self-compassion and self-doubt, which is mostly fueled by, of course, past trauma. Now, trauma also particularly affects relationships. And especially very early on, because it makes it difficult to believe in our worth. Anna's story, her mother was dismissive and hurtful, physically and verbally, which actually ingrained a belief that she wasn't good enough, and that despite her desire to prove herself, she found herself overwhelmed with self-doubt. And the sentence she used to say is, "Who am I? Because I am not even heard. I don't exist. I am not valued." And then that self-doubt creeped into her relationships during different important times of her life, while she was at studies, while she's giving exams, into her how she was with her friends, with anybody. It had a deep impact for her. And these parts of her, both the part that seeks validation and the part that anticipates rejection, pull her into opposite direction. And the part convinces that we have to protect ourselves from pain by staying small or quiet or perfect. And this only deepens the conflict because we are not living our true value or true authentic selves. And we have to pretend to be someone to be accepted or at least be able to survive. And this inner push-pull can be very exhausting. And this is what happened for the case of Anna. She basically went into almost a burnout because she experienced this conflict in her relationships, into her relationship with the men, into a relationship with her father, into a relationship with everyone. Because she always feared that she's flawed and that she will be abandoned, which only caused more anxiety. And this push and pull is because of trauma, of course. One part of us wanting connection and self-worth, while another part wants to shield us from further pain by keeping us in that similar self-defeating pattern. And so by recognizing and naming these inner parts, we can begin to resolve this conflict, slowly moving towards more integrated sense of more self-worth and also healing. And this is what we'll try and do today as well. Now, the path to reclaim self-worth is one of the most important steps in a healing is to recognize that our self-worth is inherent. It is not something that changes based on what we have gone through, what we have been through. Trauma has a way of convincing us otherwise, make us believe that our worth is somehow tied to the pain we have experienced. But the truth is, no amount of trauma diminishes who we are at the core. And Anna had this internalized harsh criticism, rejection from her mom, and believing that she wasn't good enough. Over time, this trauma became part of her, how she saw herself. And during our session, we explored how these painful experiences didn't actually define her self-worth. I was able to help Anna begin to see that these critical voices come from the trauma, not from her true self. And the challenge is learning how to separate the two, understanding that the pain may be real, but it doesn't diminish our value as a human being. And the trauma can come from any place. It doesn't necessarily need to come from a relationship. It can come from other events in your life. It can also be something that you have experienced from past generation. So trauma is a whole aspect that could be there. But the example that I'm thinking of Anna is coming from relationship with her mother. Now, the second key aspect to develop self-compassion comes from the fact that trauma often leaves us with an internal dialogue filled with shame, guilt, or self-criticism. Now, shifting this narrative is crucial to reclaiming our self-worth. When we can treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we offer to a friend, we begin to heal. Because we are very good at being kind to others and etc. But when you start to be kind to yourself, which is what we call self-energy, we start to begin to heal. And in Anna's case, she struggled with perfectionism and the fear of making mistakes, particularly in a relationship. And through her work, she started to practice being more gentle with herself. She actually she had a 3-year-old, and as she started to heal the 3-year-old, she could actually become compassionate to herself. She actually started to say words, I know who I am, and I don't need to pretend to be somebody else. And the more she could offer herself compassion, the more she was able to actually face the challenges of the critical voice that had taken root from the trauma. And that helped her to shift her narrative from shame to self-kindness, which then started to bring back the empowerment and connect it to her true self-worth. So let's go to two conflicting parts that that seem to come in the self-worth case, and also what we saw in Anna's case, but what I see a lot coming. There's a part which we call the perfectionist manager part. Now this part tries to control everything to avoid failure or rejection. It pushes for perfection in everything, in relationship, at work, in personal life. It is the one that tries to make you go to the highest level of any career or any how do you call getting degrees, etc., or any other achievement. So that's what it pushes. But it comes from a place of I'm not good enough, so I'll keep pushing, and hence it becomes very, very exhausting. In the case of Anna, this part constantly drove her to overachieve. Fearing any sign of perfection would lead to rejection or punishment. And then there is another one, which is a procrastinator, which is a firefighter. Now, a manager, it plans everything, creates all the plan and says, we must do this so that we are not rejected, etc. Firefighter is something that basically kicks in when it feels overwhelmed, and it basically sabotages. So in procrastinator, this part steps in when the pressure from the perfectionism or other aspects becomes too overwhelming. It avoids the stress by distracting or numbing out, and which can be through procrastination or self-sabotage. Anna's procrastinator part would shut her down when the pressure to be perfect felt too intense, causing her to actually start to delay, and she would not be able to study, and she would not be able to do anything and just sit and close herself. She could not go to social events, she could not do anything. And so these parts are constantly in conflict. The perfectionist pushes for unattainable standards, while the procrastinator tries to protect by avoiding emotional toil or leading to guilt, and that can sometimes lead to guilt and self-doubt. Now, the way forward involves recognizing these parts, understanding their roles. The perfectionist part fears failure, while the procrastinator tries to protect from burnout or emotional overwhelming. And by engaging with those both parts, we could actually reduce, for the case of Anna, a lot of pressure from perfectionists and find a balance which allowed self-worth to flourish without being defined by either extreme. And that's what we are going to try and practice today. Okay. So what I want you to do is to think about you're here today and looking for your self-worth. So look at two aspects that are here. Can you recall a time when you procrastinated or avoided something? And can you think of a situation where part of you that strives for perfectionism, perfection, usually takes over? In what area in your life? So just take a moment and think about, and then we'll get into the IFS. Okay, so just see if you can, uh, I mentioned about two objects. So see if you can, and you can put any two objects in front of you, one on your right side and one on your left side. These objects will represent two parts of you. The parts will, the one which will be the perfectionist and the other one will be the procrastinator. And we are going to use them both. So they can be anything. They can be crystal, pen, pencil, anything, as long as they're two objects. So just put them one on the right side and one on the left side. And just sit comfortably. You can keep a pen, paper next to you if you want to capture any insights. Now take a deep breath to center yourself. Inhale through your nose, allowing calm to fill your body, and exhale through your mouth, releasing any tension. So take a moment to breathe in through your nose and release from your mouth. Now let's take a moment to visualize your safe space. It can be a memory, it can be a person, or an image that brings you feeling of comfort and protection. So it can be a memory, a person, or image that brings you feeling of comfort and safety and protection. Visualize this space. This is your sanctuary, a place where you feel secure enough to explore your inner world. Now, let's focus on the situation you face in your life, something you thought about now as you were preparing for this session. It could be a recent memory or moments where you felt this inner conflict surfaced. Where you felt that there is a drive to procrastinate. Picture yourself in that situation now. Feeling both the pressure to perform and the urge to escape. Now notice what you feel in your body as you try to think about that. And notice, how do you feel towards it? What emotion do you feel as you connect to that? Now pick up the object on your left hand and let it represent this part of you. The one that makes procrastinate or avoidance when the pressure is too intense. Hold it in your left hand. And notice, how do you feel as you hold this object in your hand? How do you feel towards it? What emotion comes in? If somehow you hear voices that appear judgmental, could you please ask these voices to step back, go into a waiting room? Promise that you will come back to them. And if they can just step back, and so that they can make space for you to connect to this part which is associated with procrastination. And see if you can keep an attitude of curiosity as we explore. Just be curious. So ask to this part on your left hand, which represents procrastination. Ask it, say, I'm curious to know, what is your intention for me? What do you want for me? Stay curious and hear what you hear. I'm curious to know, what is your intention for me? Now follow that with another question, saying, I'm curious to know, what are you afraid would happen to me? What are your fears for me? And ask a following question. I'm also curious to know, what is your biggest fear for me? So what you heard is what is trying to protect you from. This is what is afraid of. So see if you can say, I feel compassion for those fears that you carry or try to protect me. And I'm curious to know how you have been impacting my day-to-day life. So be compassionate and ask a question saying, I'm curious to know, how do you impact my day-to-day life? And notice what you hear. And see if that starts to make sense to you. So it told you its intention, it told you its fears, its biggest fears, and then it told you how it impacts your day-to-day life. And if that makes sense, just acknowledge it. And from a place of compassion and still curiosity, ask it, since when are you doing this for me? When did you start protecting me like this? How old was I? And if possible, can you tell me what was going on then? And notice what you hear. Stay compassionate. So it told you an age when it started and it kind of gave you an idea of what was going on then. So just notice, how do you feel towards this part in your left hand? How do you feel towards it? What emotion do you feel there? Do you feel compassion from this deeper understanding? And if you do, see if you can acknowledge and thank this part for its protective role. And now ask it, saying, I'm curious to know what needs to happen for you to feel more secure and be more relaxed. What needs to happen for you to feel more secure and more relaxed? And see what you hear. Tell you its expectation, tell you actions for you. Just take note of it. And remember, stay curious, stay compassionate. And now ask it, can you give me a name? I'm so grateful that you spoke to me, but with what name should I call you? And don't judge the name, just take note of the name you hear. And take note of it. And thank it. And ask it if it can, if it's okay, if it's willing to step back for now, so that you can speak to the other part, the perfectionist part. And so it can stay there, step back a bit, and let you speak to the perfectionist part. And thank it for being so open to you and telling you. So now take a moment to direct your focus to the part of you that pushes for perfection, tries to strive for flawless results. And just notice any sensations you feel in your body, tightening, tension, rigidity. Just breathe into that area. And approach this part also with curiosity. So pick the object that you have on the right hand side, place it on your right hand. And this will represent the perfectionist part of you. Now just notice, how do you feel towards it? What emotion do you feel? It could be guilt, anxiety. And see if you can become curious about it. And if you somehow hear voices that appear to be judgmental or trying to say things to you, you can just ask them, saying, can you please step aside, go into the waiting room, and promise we'll come back to you. But for the moment, if you can create space for me to connect to this part in my right hand. And see if you can create an attitude of curiosity through, with this exploration. So we're going to ask some question to the right part, to the perfectionist part in your right hand, and see if you can be curious to know what it tells you. So ask a question saying, I'm curious to know, what is your intention for me? What do you want from me? And see what you hear. ask a follow-up question. So I'm curious to know, what are you afraid will happen if I don't achieve perfection? What are your fears for me? Stay curious. Ask it, saying, what is your biggest fear for me? So take note that these are all this is how it's trying to protect you. And see if you can feel a bit of compassion. And you can say, I feel compassion for all those fears you carry and all the protection, the way you try to protect me. And I'm curious to know, how have you been impacted my day-to-day life? And see what you hear. I'm curious to know how you have been impacting my day-to-day life. And see if that makes sense. Acknowledge it. And then ask question, I would like to know, since when did you start protecting me this way? What was going on? How old was I? And just listen from a place of, if possible, compassion, but definitely curiosity. So when did it start? What was going on then? How old was I? So I'll tell you an age and maybe what was going on then. Just listen to it. And notice how you feel towards the perfectionist part of your right hand. What emotions do you have towards it? Do you feel compassion from deeper understanding? Because it told you what is intention for you, what it was afraid of would happen to you, since when it has been carrying it, and how it impacts your day-to-day life. So just see if you can feel compassion for it and acknowledge it for playing this protective role. Ask it, how can I call you? Or by what name should I call you? And again, no judgment. Let it tell you how it wants you to be called. And take note of it. Now ask it if it needs to feel more balanced and if it can share its perspective with the other part, the procrastinator. and see if he's willing to do that. And stay curious, stay compassionate, and invite both parts, the perfectionist and the procrastinator, to engage in a dialogue. And you stay compassionate, curious. And holding the objects in your right and left hand, representing each part, ask with compassion the perfectionist part to express its concern and goal, and then ask to the procrastinator part to share why it steps in and pulls you back from overwhelm, and let them share with each other. And you stay compassionate and you're hearing. Encourage them both to find a common ground, realizing that they can work together. And from point of compassion, ask them both, one at a time, what needs to happen for each of them to be more calm and relaxed. Just hear with them with compassion and curiosity. What needs to happen for them to be calm and relaxed? And take note of that. Now thank them both for their presence and acknowledge their important roles in your life, and take a moment to share a vision for yourself with both of them, what you want. And let the parts know that you will continue to dialogue with them every day, and how grateful you are for them to coming up and sharing with you. And then when that feels okay, start to come back here as we start to prepare for the tuning forks. So sound healing, so the way if you're new here, just to give a quick one. So basically what we do is we work on the torus, on this field, which is called biofield. So it's about 6 feet both sides, and then it's in this form. And the premise of this is that trauma and stories are stored within this biofield, and when you put a tuning fork with certain frequency into them, basically they react and it tells you what has happened then, more or less, and then you can go in and basically release. Okay, so that's what we are going to do. So very quick nutshell. So how we do is that we open the center below the feet first. So you open the channel, this whole thing, okay, and then once we open it, we run a pendulum to know which center chakra, if you know chakra, we are going to work today based on what you have been bringing up, and so it can be whatever will come up. We'll see what comes up. And then what we do is we start from the point of conception and into pregnancy in vitro, and find out if there is anything there. A lot of trauma and implicit memory gets formed in vitro in the womb, and then we go into the age. Excuse me, and I will tell you some age, whatever will come up. And sometime I also receive basically some form of emotion or some form of instruction as well, so I will share it out. Okay, so we'll do both. Okay, so we are going to go a little bit over time, sorry for that. What we are going to do, so I'm going to start opening from below the feet, top of the head, then into the field based on which center we are going to work. So stay with that. Okay, here we go. So we start below the feet. Ah, yes, and then there's a breathing. So there's you take the breath in and you breathe out from your mouth. And sometimes when it's very strong, if the emotion is too strong, then you can also do ha. Okay, and I will do it with you. Okay, so I'm below your feet, opening the channel to the top of the head. Okay, so we're going to the ground. Take a breath. Okay, so now we go to the top of the head and open the channel from there. So pointing to the top of the head, through backbone, through the feet into the earth. So opening channel from the top of the head. Take a breath. Okay, so now I'm going to run the pendulum. You'll not hear anything. I'll keep telling you. Start from the feet and then go to the knees. Then to the root chakra, sacral, second center, solar plexus, saying no. Okay, heart. So this goes there on the left side. Yeah, so it wants to work on the heart on the left side. So this is for sadness, grief, loss, depression. Okay, so we will start with from the point of your conception, and then we'll go inside. And what I will do is I will keep telling you the age or what comes up, and what you can do is just see if that makes sense to you. Remind yourself of it and just breathe, and then with tuning fork we are going to release it out. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to change the frequency, so we are going to use 144 Hertz now. Before it was 178 Hertz. And we start at the point of conception. Here we go. Yeah. Take a breath. Not feeling supported. That's how, this is at the point of conception. So the little one and has this strange sadness, or yeah. Do I want to come in? So see if you can breathe and just see that little one, welcome it, use the frequency to give it reassurance. Okay, I'm going to change the tuning fork. It's asking reassurance. See if you can breathe. Yeah. Feels better. So within a month, yeah, less than 2 months, so 2 months. Probably mothers, unable to express its emotion, is suppressing truth and is fearful. And the little one is taking mother's emotion. So just breathe and hold the little one. Any soothing words that you would like to say will work. Any soothing word. Because it is a huge pain in the left neck, so cannot express. Unable to express his emotion. Or tell the truth. Say the truth. Yeah. Changing the tune because it wants to be released. This is a 2 months old in the womb. Huh? Okay, much better. Seven months in the womb, and now is able to see, hear everything. Yeah. Cannot tell the truth, cannot express, And there's a fear from probably father or father-like figure, can be also external. Even a doctor or can be somebody which has an authority. And this could be experienced by the mother. Breathe. Okay. He's telling me 15 years old, so it went then straight to 15-year-old. And a lot of extreme grief or sadness. Extreme, it's painful in the heart. Very painful. So see if you can. I'm going to use the other tuning fork. It just cannot bear it. So it can be 14-year-old or 15, huh? Somewhere there. Okay. I'm saying 5 years ago. Something. From an authority figure, somebody who has authority on you. Can be a male or a female, but doesn't matter. Somebody which has an authority on you is creating a lot of distress. He's asking to bring peace, forgiveness, love to your mother. Now we are, there's a lot of anxiety about that. So, yeah, it's a mother. So now we are in the, what your mother went through in her childhood and her life that you have brought into yours. And the only thing is saying that just give love, forgiveness. That's all. If you're holding anything there. Okay, we're going to release everything that we have collected, allow it to free. Okay, we are going to start to close. So the process continues for 48 to 72 hours. Protect the body to continue to process now. And surround the body in a cocoon of 528 hertz. Now take a moment to reflect on the part of you that surfaced today. The part that strives for perfection, the part that procrastinates. Acknowledge their presence. Recognize the strength it took to explore these aspects of yourself. And for a moment, allow yourself to feel the connection to these two parts. Take a moment to silently offer gratitude to both. Thank them. And imagine sending a warm, soothing light and sound to these parts. See the light filling them, the sound filling them with understanding and compassion. Letting them know that they are seen, heard, and appreciated just as they are. As you prepare to close this session, visualize these parts reintegrating into your whole self. Picture them finding their rightful places within you, working together in harmony. They no longer need to be in conflict. They can coexist. Take one final deep breath in, feeling a sense of balance, integration, spreading through your body. As you slowly exhale, ground yourself firmly in the present moment. And when you feel ready, gently start to open your eyes. Come back to the present moment. Thank you for being here.